Hello, everybody. I'm Dewa Dorje, and this is the Dank Moms True Detective episode 4 recap. And I don't know, just giving a Dank Moms feel. Again, my name is Dewa. Hello, hello. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So this number 4 is called number 4, episode 4 called number 4. And it finds us on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And is basically one of the most fucked up Christmases ever. Only second to Gremlins, maybe. That was Christmas when Dad got stuck in the chimney. I was thinking also Die Hard. That was a pretty bad Christmas. I'm sure there's lots of other Christmases, but those are the two that jump to mind first as far as TV and movies go. So yeah, this is up there. But yeah, I'm confused as to where they're going in this for this season because there's only 2 more episodes left and the next one comes out on Friday instead of Sunday. So we'll see where it goes. But right now, where it stands, let me just do a recap. We got Navarro and Danvers are both having familial problems. Danvers with her daughter and or stepdaughter and memories of her son and in the interpersonal relationships with all her hookups in the town of NS and abroad, including her captain. And then so there's a lot of conflict there on the personal level. And for Navarro, it's the same thing. Again, it's her sister and her own mental health, and her sister's mental health is deteriorating, and that's her younger sister. And there's a couple flashback scenes, which they always do, and we flash back to the backstory of Rose Ingenue, but who is like the shaman that found the bodies to begin with. Now, what I found on Reddit boards and other podcasts is people are a little bit split as far as what they want from the series. For me as a watcher, I want to just watch a compelling story, good characters, and a mystery, like a suspense. Now, what I wasn't prepared for was this season they kind of really mixed in the horror element. There is a few jump scares and there's a lot of screaming, and the screaming is sort of disjointed where you don't know, is that called asynchronous? I can't remember, but it's not, or it's not in sync with what's coming around you, and it's what's going on. Like you'll hear screaming like in episode 3 when the baby was being born in the birthing tub with Annie Kay as the midwife or the doula. The screams that they had initially were not the screams of somebody giving birth. They were shrieks. Now, we don't know if we're in Navarro or any of the characters' actual what they see in their mind. Is it a third person's point of view as far as the narrator? So, the unreliable narrator, I'm still going to say everything that you see cannot always be we can't categorize it as something that everyone has seen. Everyone doesn't necessarily see, and we don't also know if it's true. For example, does Navarro actually see a cross on a necklace with a cross on it and throw it out the window? Did that actually happen? Are these things all hallucinations? We don't know yet. So basically what we find out is at the beginning it's pretty obvious at top that Julia, Navarro's sister, is going to be having a really hard time. She agrees to go to the lighthouse, and which is kind of like, it's not really what I've gathered from online is it's not really a rehab facility or a mental health facility where you could get locked in and involuntarily stay there, involuntary admitted, that's the word I was looking for. But really what it is kind of a rest place, a safe rest place. And sometimes it's because of mental health. It could be for a lot of different reasons. But ultimately, Julia agrees to go in there, which I think it was a really beautiful scene. And how they filmed it was when Julia goes to her room at the lighthouse, the camera pulls away in this long hallway shot, which is what happens, which is what is it seems like consistent through the series so far, is the act of being like pulled away or going down a tunnel, traveling down some kind of tube. And so ultimately Julia does leave the facility, and she goes out and undresses, outside in the freezing, and walks out into the ocean. What we learn after is that Julia just walks into the freezing ocean until she dies. And the Coast Guard calls Navarro later on in that same day to say that they found her body. And man, that Coast Guard works OT, because they were on it. Like, I don't know how long it was, but I guess that's kind of unrealistic, but it's kind of part of that cognitive dissonance that you have to have when you're watching things. Like, we just want to go along with the story. Yes, okay, so the Coast Guard picked them up really fast. So, yes. And then you also saw when Julia passes, she does get completely naked. And she does fold up all her clothes very neatly in a very specific way, which is the same as what happened to the bodies at the corpsicles. They also had their clothes folded like that. I don't know what that means to them, but to me, when I see clothes folded in that manner, I don't know, it just brings to mind a very feminine, a very maternal, a maternal vibe. So it goes along, but I don't think that Julia's particular case is supernatural. I don't think that it has anything to do with like supernatural. I believe that Julia has a mental health condition. Probably, I know that Navarro lists all of the mental health conditions that she was diagnosed with at some point in this episode. And yeah, so Navarro is very distraught. And it's a lot because Navarro doesn't have anybody. It doesn't appear that Navarro has any people in the area, and much less any friends or anybody that's checking in on her. So there's that. So in this episode, it begins with, we're looking for Clark, Anthony Clark, and we're looking for Otis Heiss, who we find out was responsible for mapping these ice caves that are in the area. And but we can't find him. So at the beginning of the episode, they're looking for him. They're looking for Clark because we know they're still out there. They get intelligence to find that there is someone with that pink bomber in the smiley face patch walking around near a dredge in close to the town or something. Now, I didn't know nothing what a dredge is. Maybe this is some kind of industry jargon that I'm not aware of, but I didn't know what a dredge was. So what a dredge is it's kind of like a cross between kind of like a boat and a excavator and something with a tube that kind of like sucks things out. So basically what it does is it sucks up sediment, sand, and takes it out, excavates it for so that like boats can still go, so it doesn't create such a shallow area. So it's trying to even out the waterways so that they can get to shore or whatever, because sand moves, so it digs that out. It's the dredge is empty, and apparently this is what happens a lot from my research online. I've saw some other dredges. Sometimes people just kick it there, probably kids, people doing drugs or whatever. So after they're kind of vacated, and if the company doesn't take them. Another thing that I wanted to point out in this from the beginning was that Hank was at Salal in the first episode. He was the first person there. That's something that we need to recognize, because this fool, we know that he has something to do with it. I don't know what Kovik's what do you call it? What Kovik's role is. If is he good or bad? I'm hoping he's good. But Hank was at the Salal station first. He was the man there. We don't know what he did or what he didn't do. I was trying to look around when I rewatched to see, if there was anything that appeared to be out of place. Um, oh, interesting. Anyways, I was just remembering that's one of the characters had a pair of socks drying on a heater. They made a a real specific point of pointing out those socks. So I don't know. And so I'm just been thinking about that, the fact that Hank was there first. So Hank is in cahoots one way or another because he has no business taking those files home and then acting like they're his own. Oh no, they're not there. Then guess what, yo? I need to see some kind of chain of, what do they call it? Handling? Not chain of handling. Anyway, whoever was handling it, we should have some documentation. You should not be having it in an old case, in an old TV stand or a coffee table. So that's where he had the Annie Cowtox files from. This is all from the first episode. So then I noticed that Ryan, who is Annie Kotok's brother, I noticed that he was in it. He's been in it significantly. And I thought, and he seems sort of inclined to let Annie's death just go away because he doesn't want to. He works at the mine himself. And I think that's interesting to point out is that he works at the mine himself. His water was also dirty, and Kavik's water was dirty. So everybody in the town is affected by the mining water and the fact that the mine is poisoning the water. We should not be having black water. Again, I think somebody like Rose Ingenue or Ogane or whatever would not be susceptible to that because I think she has her own source of water. Like, I think she has one of those, like a cistern or something of clean water. That being said, I do think that Ryan has something to do with it. And the crazy thing, and if I can pop it in here, I will. There's like a still. I took a still of my screen. There's this white dude. So when Navarro goes to pick up Ryan at the mining company to tell him about what happened to his sister. I mean, tell him about updates on his sister. There's like this white guy in the background who thinks the cops are there for him. He's just like, man, he got something to do with it. So I don't know. I think that the mine is not whoever is for and against the mine, it's not cut and dry as if it's like white people versus indigenous people, because the indigenous people also work at the mine and they have different attitudes towards it. They're not a monolith in that way. So that was one thing that I did want to point out. So I just think that Ryan is involved with it in some fashion, because he also said this. He said he didn't talk to Annie for the last year of her life because of a fight about the mine and how basically how the mine was poisoning the water. But he was the one that said there's no schools, there's nothing in the town without the mine. So I think that Ryan should be one of the suspects. And I think it has to do with the water, because now that I look back at it, there are so many scenes with running water, whether it's washing dishes. A couple times people are washing dishes. A couple times they're brushing teeth. We see Navarro and Liz and Danvers brush their teeth with an electric toothbrush, which leads me to say my new theory is everybody in the town is being actively poisoned by the mine. And I'm going to choose mercury because I think that's one of the big contaminants that comes from mining. And I believe they're mining some kind of stone or precious metal. I think it's gold. I'm not positive, but I'm going to say it's gold. So yeah, they've been mining in there. And then separately, the Salal Lab guys have been mining in a way also. And I think that if I use mercury as the chemical contaminant, mercury is known to cause mania. And from what I can tell, some of Navarro's visions seem to be coming out of um, mania or maybe even a traumatic brain injury, because she did say that in her last tour she learned that there was a god, and they showed a scene where the head of her fellow soldier is missing. We don't know what that means, but what I think it means is there's a bigger scene to be, a bigger story to be developed about her tour in wherever she was, somewhere sandy. I can't say where it was, but and the death that she saw, and if she had any brain injuries. Like, why would she go to Ennis if Ennis isn't really where she's from? It didn't sound like she was from there. I mean, I know that her mom was indigenous to that area, but her dad wasn't, and she was born in Boston, I thought she said. So that being said, I think there is a poisoning. I think that maybe Navarro it's like a yes and situation, because I think Navarro is being poisoned like everybody else, number one. And number two, I do think she also suffers from possibly schizophrenia, which is what her sister and her mother had. So that's the thing, is being able to discern what we're dealing with, and it could be very complex even within one person. So she could be having schizophrenic visions and having visions from a supernatural vision from a spirit and whatnot. Yeah, and the other thing is, I did notice is the people that come, the way that they're represented, the people that are coming from to talk in the afterlife are not scary. Like, Holden's not scary, and Travis isn't scary. But all those other people are, with the orange and whatnot. And to me, that has something to do with traumatic brain injury and schizophrenia and being poisoned by the mind. I bet if they did a blood test, you can do a mercury test, it would be very strong. So I think there's a combination of things going on. But the murder, the things that are going on personally for Danvers and Navarro are impacted by external and internal, like literally because the mercury poisoning. So that's my take right now. And also, I'm wondering about when Annie was murdered, the star-shaped weapon, was it something to do with a mining weapon? Was it a mining tool? I don't know. But also, it feels like a lot of people are not interested in talking to either of them. Obviously, people don't like the police. But on top of that, Danvers is a unlikable character, even if people do end up doing stuff for her. But nobody likes her. And they shouldn't, because she's an awful person that is literally using her disdain as a buffer between her and other people, so that they won't know how deeply hurt she is. And now I'm getting the feeling that maybe she was the reason why her husband and son passed away, possibly in a car accident. I think that maybe her drunk driving caused her son and husband to pass away, maybe on accident, maybe on purpose. I don't know. Because then if she did that, if she was drunk, maybe she would have gone to jail, because that wasn't a thing. Or maybe that was her reprimand to be sent elsewhere. So she also, I mean, they've spent a lot of time kind of developing her unlikability and the way that she kind of uses people to appease her emotional struggle. So I think that, oh, and one thing, just Easter eggs that I noticed was that there is a crab king, a king thing that says king, and it has a crown but it's a spider. And I noticed the spider imagery at the crabbing factory, and I noticed the spider imagery at the end of this episode number 4. There's a spray paint of a spider, and they take a moment to do it, and the eyes are like glowing. So, ooh, spiders scare the shit out of me. Like that big. Yeah, and the other thing that they covered was that the bodies, the corpuscles, were likely dead before they were frozen, even though Anchorage doesn't want to believe it. The captain from Anchorage doesn't want to believe it. But what I think possibly have happened, this is after reading some of the Reddits and whatnot, is that they were murdered and then possibly flash frozen at the crabbing plant. Was a star, ooh, was the star pattern on Annie a crab claw? Was it the king crab that killed her? The blue king crab? I'm joking. I just think that, like, there's a lot to be said about the imagery that's shared between not the first season and the second season. I do think that also Clark has lost his mind. And what else? Yeah, Clark. Oh, interesting theory. Clark is the only one that dibbled and dabbled, was sowing his oats out in the community. No, oh no. No, Oliver. Oh, yep. And Oliver ain't there no more either. It's just kind of weird because Oliver, Tagog, and Otis Heiss, he has a German national. And I don't know why I did that, but they kind of messed around in the town too. I remember because the hairdresser lady Susan, she said that she used to mess around with one of them. And it was Oliver. She used to mess around with Oliver because that's why when Annie got with, was it Anthony Clark? I don't remember. Clark. I'm just gonna call him Clark. He got with Annie then, and I don't know. Like, he seems like he was really into her, and I think she was just kind of, like, I mean, I like you, but that RV took it to a whole nother level. Because the weirdest thing about the RV, and I don't remember if this was a thing in any of the other cases, but the body that was wrapped up, like the effigy that was in the bed, that was scary. And the only thing that I can remember about an effigy like that was in another true crime, I think a true crime movie that was on Netflix. God, I forgot what it was, but it was about the woman, like Our Mother, like We Never Get Sick, or I can't remember, but everybody died from starvation. They wrapped her body up and kept it for like a month. And it was wrapped up like that, like a mummy, and it, like, it had blankets and shit. So it's definitely giving cult. Like there's other people that are practicing what Clark was doing. Okay, yeah, and that they also said that the bodies died for fright, but if you're deaf and then you're blind and all you have is the ability to speak, maybe you will make those phases. I don't know. But also Anchorage came and picked up the bodies in this episode. And I'm just looking at my notes, so I'm trying not to be too boring on here. And the other questions I have for this episode are like, what were the cleaning people? What did they know? They know more than they're letting on, and they haven't really looked into that very much. But the cleaning people know something. If they know enough to say that Clark was known to walk around butt-ass naked, that's one thing. And I think that people didn't really fuck with him because he was being weird. And I also just wonder what exactly the electrical component is, because electricity is not going to make the iPhone die. That's the thing, is electricity is not going to make the iPhone die. The iPhone is on its own. Like, it's got its own battery. So this is more than just this is more than just electricity dying, because the phone cuts out. It doesn't go black until the battery dies. Because if I hit record and oh no. Oh, I thought No, it was a video, yeah. So if they hit record and he's recording until that guy, like until Clark gets electrocuted or whatever, or starts having the seizure, the phone wouldn't die unless there's some kind of like magnetic field or something that turns off all electronics. That was just something I want to point out because people are saying like, "Oh, that was so dumb that she made this. They took so long to make this connection between Annie, the power going out, because at the end of her video, all the power goes out too." I don't know. I'm just kind of wondering, like, when something happens deep inside that dredge, does everybody's power go out? I would like to know if they're tracking that, but it doesn't really matter. What we're going to find out on a bigger picture is that, in my opinion, is that there's a group of like the people that go seal hunting, like all those people, I think they know what that rock means. It means something and they're aware of it. And the dog knows about it too. Because I think in the first episode, when Navarro talks about that or talks about the case in some way, the dog is like, brrr. Kavik's dog gets all upset. I remember when just this episode when Navarro and Pete go or and Pryor go to the fishing village. As soon as they showed that rock, the dog started acting strange, and then everybody, all the homies came up and pulled up when they showed the rock. So there's that. And I just realized that probably the scientists had their own water shipped in or brought to them in some manner that wasn't a part of the town of Ennis. And everybody in Ennis seems to live in what I don't know what they call them out there, but they live in some sort of manufactured home. It doesn't seem like yeah, so they live in some kind of manufactured home. So I don't know how they get their water, but I'm assuming based on the fact that they're saying all the water is poisoned, it's from a central source. So I don't know. I want to know what exactly. I don't know. I'm just wondering what Issa is thinking. Issa Lopez, the director. I appreciated a lot of the Easter eggs that she put in. Obviously, the Easter eggs were stuff from the movie, like jump scares that are similar to movies like, what is it? The Mimic, maybe even, what are the ones I said? The Mimic, The Ring. There's a lot of different movies that have those type of jump scares. I have always been a jump scare fraidy cat. Like I'm scared of those, but for whatever reason in this series, I haven't gotten jumped. It gets creepy because of the music. Like I have that visceral reaction to hearing the music, but I don't feel like scared the way that I would and that I have in the past. Maybe that's just my age, and as I gotten older, I don't really give a shit anymore. But that's how I feel right now. So I'm feeling very strongly about the water component, and and the other thing is Leah gets caught vandalizing the mining offices and putting murderers on the door, and she got caught by the security, but Danvers gets her out of it by kind of pulling the stepmom having a hard time card with the ice rink owner, the mine owner. I think she's the owner of the mine. But it's very interesting how nobody just talks straight up to her. If she's the owner of the mine and you can just talk straight up to her, that's very interesting. And that they don't say, that what needs to be said. And so, and I noticed that Annie or Leah has uncanny resemblance to Annie, and I could see that when Danvers looks at the footage, looks at the files, it could be very triggering to see those because it looks like her own daughter. It looks like her own daughter, and that's the other thing about motherhood. I'm a mother. I have a daughter, and it's very complicated. It's hard to say, but it's very complicated. It's almost like sometimes without having the parenting skills or the emotional intelligence that is needed to be a parent, you can often get caught up in a dynamic where you're almost like, don't do this, don't do that, why don't you listen? It's just such a knee-jerk reaction when you're under stress, when you've got a murder case and all this. I don't believe that she doesn't love Leah. I believe she deeply loves it. In order to provide a place to live and provide a lot, she plays hockey. She has stuff to do. Obviously, Danvers is providing enough stability for her to even be able to say and do the things that she's doing. It takes a good deal of freedom at home to even be able to say, look, this is what I believe in, this is what I'm interested in, even if Danvers doesn't like it. And also, they do have this whole, like, I would love to hear what other people are thinking about, like, how they depict the relationship between Leah and her girlfriend. I think she's 16 years old. They're both 16, supposed to be 16. The actress is 27. I will say that. The actress that plays Leah is 27. But in the TV show she's 16, or at least the girlfriend is. I don't think that they ever say specifically how old Leah is, but she's still in high school. And I guess it's like, for me, trying to figure out what was the purpose of that. And maybe it's just saying that she's still a kid, and given opportunity to show Liz working as a mother. Like, I do think that she cares. Like, she doesn't want Leah to get in trouble, especially with the videos, especially with, like, I think she was the daughter of the mining. No, that was a different lady. Anyways, I'm interested in seeing how that goes. But then also, that's another interracial relationship. Most of the relationships, except for the ones with, I think Danvers is the only, no, since her husband, it seems like it's the only one where it's not interracial. Every other relationship, it seems like it's interracial. Like, mostly white and indigenous, except for the case of Navarro. Because I think, Kavik. Oh my God, Kavik's jacket. I'll never forget that jacket. I want that jacket. I would love to wear that jacket sometime. I'd also love to go, if I was in that universe. I think I have a crush on both Navarro and Kavik. What's up, Kavik? What's up with that bar called Kavik's? I think in better times, it would have been fun to hang out with them. Oh, and also, oh shit, I was so surprised. Like, at this episode, I'm so glad that I got my wish from, like, the last episode of this podcast. I said I wanted to see Callie Reese fight. My wishes were granted. Callie Reese, aka Navarro, got in a fight. And I think it's understandable that when you're in so much anguish, constant anguish, that you would really want to have some release from it. So on that night that her sister died, she checked her sister in, and then her sister left and went and committed suicide. That's happened in one day. But even just for her, it's just like dealing with, in the meantime, she was dealing with the fact that she had to make a choice for her sister that she didn't want to make, because it begs the question, why couldn't Navarro just stay home with her for Christmas? It's not a case where it's moving so fast, like, things are going to change in 24 hours. But at any rate, Navarro doesn't do that, and she admits her to the lighthouse. But it begs the question, why wouldn't Navarro just stay home and take care of her? Why wouldn't Navarro just cuddle up with her? It's because she couldn't too. She can only meet her sister as deeply as she's met herself, and she has not met herself that deeply, because she still thinks that this condition is basically a death certificate. The condition is a death certificate because she believes it to be God, and it's not God, and it's not her sister. It's not her mom calling her. Like any of those rotten people, like that. No, that ain't it. But that's me. I'm not. I don't know how old Navarro is. Navarro is like 20 something. She wouldn't know that. That sometimes that your mind plays tricks on you, especially if you're drinking mercury water. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, after she finds out about her sister, it was heartbreaking because when she finds out she's in the car with Pryor and they're supposed to go out and do something else for Liz, and it was I think, and then she goes over to Liz's house. That's right. Then she goes over to Liz's house, and Liz is just kind of an asshole because she goes off on why can't I say Navarro? She goes off on Navarro because Navarro didn't even say anything. And she's like, it ain't supernatural. It ain't this. It ain't that. And I'm like, a good detective would leave no options off the table when we're trying to figure it out. Now, they're trying to investigate it as a murder investigation. It sounds like Anchorage might try to just consider it like an accident, like, oh, these fools just walked out butt naked in the ice and died out there. That's just not a satisfying answer to me. But I'm wondering if all the scientists have like what do you call it? Don't have family, don't have anybody like really checking on them. At least that's what it seemed like, except for maybe, I'm not sure if that Brazilian dude that was on the camera, like, does he have a YouTube channel? Or was that a video, like, to be sent to somebody or something like that? Was he posting this on socials? You know what I'm saying? Like, does he got other stuff out there? That's the other thing. They didn't check socials. I felt like that guy was out getting some ass. The Brazilian dude? I don't know. But Brazil, we all know how Brazil do. Very sexy. Brazil is sexy. I think like Brazil is like one of the only countries where you could just know by the name, that's a sexy ass country. I mean, there is a lot, obviously every country has its own social and political problems, but overall I'm just going to say Brazil is sexy, as is Navarro and Kavik. What a wonderful snuggly party that would be. I would love to be a guest at that party. And maybe Rose will cater it because she looked like she could cook her ass off. Anyways, I think that we're going to, oh yeah, so I don't want to leave this part out. So yeah, then Navarro goes out after she leaves Liz's house because Liz is such an asshole. Liz is like, dead or gone, dead or gone. There ain't no afterlife. There ain't no this. First off, bitch, you don't know. Because I think more than that, there isn't any, this is my opinion, there's more evidence to suggest that there is something that happens after the body dies to the soul. So we know that. And so Liz is wrong, just on that account. Whether or not they had anything to do with this case is separate. But the fact that she's so adamant about something that is clearly beyond, from time immortal is what they call it, I think. Time immortal, yeah. That it was before, yeah, exactly. It's before we can even talk about like the society that we live in now. That the fact that that there is a spirit that exists in us after our life is very hard for some colonizers to accept, because many indigenous cultures believe in that. I think all indigenous cultures have a connection to the spirit realm. I'm Tibetan, and we're very much believe. I mean, we're the one Tibetan Book of the Dead. We are the ones who have put the wisdom out there that we have and what we know as fact about reincarnation and our spirits and what happens to us after we pass away. So I do believe that there is supernatural elements in addition to the other elements of this mystery. I don't think that, for me, I think anything with the rotten people is a hallucination. And if the people are like how Holden is, I think they're real. Or how Travis was, I think they're real. I think the people come to talk to you to tell you something. And I think Holden is telling Navarro what to tell Liz. But don't get it twisted. Those other things might just be schizophrenia. That is stress based, because a lot of times when they see him, it's very stressful. And also, I'm kind of curious to know, like when Liz gets her head, like she has two obvious concussions during the season, and she kind of goes into a desert place. I didn't know what they were referring to, except for now it all came back to me that she was in the military and did some tours somewhere where that was like an arid desert. So then after Navarro leaves Liz's, man, she's ready to go. So she wants to fight. So she goes out, and she saw the guy that she beat up in the first episode. She saw him again. They're nemesises. Like, those two got beef. And so she saw him out there drinking on Christmas Eve with his homies, and, he flipped her off. And then after all this happens, she goes out and she picks a fight with him. And she throws a really good punch. And I just feel like, knowing that she's a boxer, I wish she would have laid his ass out. I mean, that punch, I wish it would have laid his ass out, but maybe they were just like, he's obviously so much bigger. But yeah, she does know how to fight. It's obvious, but she knew she was going to get overcome. It was like 4 grown Alaskan men versus her. So she gets her ass handed to her, but not before she gets some really good licks in with the hubcap. Ooh, I love the hubcap scene. She busts that dude in the jaw with the hubcap. And she punched the boyfriend in the face. I hope she broke his nose again. He was a piece of shit. And yeah, I don't know what happened to all the other guys or why they even let her go, but she had her fingers broken / dislocated. She had a tooth knocked out. She had a black eye. And she had just all other kinds of lesions. And I would suspect she probably has a broken rib, her size and stuff, because they kicked her so many times. Granted, she's wearing a lot of clothes, and she's likely wearing a bulletproof vest. I don't know. I think she looks like she's wearing a bulletproof vest. She goes over to Kovik's. Kovik comes in and takes care of her a little bit. It was a really beautiful moment, which I can personally relate to. As a tough cookie myself, I do not like to accept help like that and be in a vulnerable state, but it was very sweet to see that Kovik was like, oh shit, and he really cared about her. I think that he may be able to show up for her somewhere in this by the end of the series, and in a way that she deserves to be treated. I think that Navarro deserves some real love, and they need to get the fuck out of Ennis, and they need to stop drinking that motherfucking water, and we need to get some fresh water into that town stat. But this is America. Whatever that means. It means we don't really care about everybody as long as most people are delusional enough to just get by. So they're not going to get clean water. But I'd like to see, by the end of this, Navarro get some kind of tenderness. But this series is pretty bleak, and I don't think that they're going to have a warm and fuzzy ending. But I am excited to see where it goes. It's only 2 more episodes. The next one drops on Friday, and overall, I think it's been a good season. I mean, it's different than the rest because everybody's talking so much shit, but just give women an opportunity that every man has had forever. Like, not every movie needs to be 2 white men, 2 white men, 2 white men. It's very difficult to even watch television to have any of the main protagonists be not white. This goes back to my Paul Giamatti thing. Paul Giamatti can give up some of those roles. He doesn't need to be doing everything. Like as a person of color, I try to watch stuff there's literally very little programming, movies, whatever, with any characters of color that are not tropes or stereotypes, like that type of thing, to be a well-developed character. Now, Navarro and Danvers, I think they're more well-developed than most women characters. And I don't think they're doing a bad job. I mean, if anything that like the people are complaining about, it's not the acting. The acting is amazing. And I don't care what nobody says. Because people on Reddit right now, they're tripping. They're saying like, and I just think they're haters because, oh my gosh, I posted my video to Reddit, and it's like the first time I've ever done that. I've never shared a video on Reddit or anything. And then I had a typo in there. The first comment, you shouldn't be a detective. Who said I was a detective? Motherfucker. Who said I was a detective? I didn't say I'm the true detective. I had a typo. Thank you for pointing it out. And like another person said, it said, there was a typo in that. And I was like, okay, thanks. And I changed it, which was good to know. I don't have any problem with it. Why does everybody act like so critical? Like Reddit ain't the place. Because I'm a part of a bunch of other groups, not a true detective group, but other groups that are chill. They're not coming out snarky, like from the jump, like ready to go. Like I literally posted it. I got 2 comments. One of them was, 3 comments. And another one was nasty too. They said, oh, just what we want. More regurgitated bullshit. What would make you even say that? Bitch, you don't know what I'm doing. Bitch, you don't watch fucking YouTube. Well, then fucking move on. People out here just trying to have a good time and watching TV. Plus, there needs to be a lot more television that has women of color doing regular shit. Women in general, but women of color more precisely, because I'm tired of hearing people say that women aren't funny, blah, blah. That's the reason why you guys hold us down, because we're better than you at most things. Like the average woman, we're deep. That's all I got to say. The average woman is very deep. We have to take on a lot in this world, and because of that, we have not. We ain't got the bandwidth to represent ourselves on the level that men have, like on the marketing level, like the patriarchy. Oh, your marketing is good. Because it even got some of us brainwashed. Like it's got all of us brainwashed, but I'm talking about the people that ride for men harder than they ride for the everyone's equality. I'm talking about oppressed people. I'm talking about women of color. I'm talking about disabled, gender nonconforming, queer people, all that type of shit. Blah, blah, blah. And poor people. But the season says a lot, and I'm really glad. And I'm also glad that they bring it back to the class. It's a class struggle on top of everything. Like they were dirt poor in the first season too. Those were some dirt poor people. Man, I'll never get that last scene out of my head from the final episode of the first season, man. No, that was nasty. I can't. That was really upsetting. But moving on, I like where they're going with this. I hope they keep doing it. And I hope it doesn't go the way, like, women, when we go out here and we make a movie or a television shows, it's got to be fire from beginning to end. Otherwise, the critics will jump all over it. Whereas men, the women won't get another chance. It'll be like 1 billion years before somebody gets a chance, because that's going to be used as an example of why something is a failure. You can't do that because that's faulty reasoning. One person does not mean all people, and we should at least get the opportunity to create the content that and get many chances as men do. Because I don't give a fuck why Adam Sandler. Why does Adam Sandler have like 1 million movies, TV shows, and stuff, and a lot of them have flopped, but he still keeps going? I'm sure Paul Giamatti has done a lot of shit that has flopped. Not unlike homie's dick in Sideways. That was a flop. Anyways, I got so much beef with Paul Giamatti as a character, as an actor, not personally, but I'm just saying, did John Adams look like Paul Giamatti like that? Like, Paul Giamatti didn't even really put on no, he just put on a costume and brought his regular face. You know what I'm saying? Like, other people, they're like, oh, no way, like, there's no way so and so could be black. There's no way so and so could be Asian. Well, there ain't no way John Adams looked like fucking Paul Giamatti. And you know why I'm saying that? Because we're just saying, just because if you're white, you can look like anybody. But if you Asian or another person of color, you can't. You can only play yourself. But I think something's going to happen. I know women are out here moving and becoming creators and becoming filmmakers and getting stories out there that's different. I love where this season started to go, and I'm like where it's going. Maybe it's not like the be all end all, but I do think that this is a great cast, and I think the director is right. The writing is a little weird sometimes. There's not enough, the writing isn't as robust as I would like it, because there's a lot of yeah, and it doesn't bring anything to the character with all the just yeah, and gazing out the window bullshit. It's not that. Like, this isn't like some Vim Vendors. We don't need that much pauses in it. This isn't a Vim Vendors cut or a Vim Vendors joint. But anyways, I'm excited about the next episode, and I don't know, how do you guys like my new camera setup? Oh shit. This is the way I normally would film it, but I was feeling all my stuff was put away. So now I got the camera out. I got my Carhartt on, representing Ennis, because I feel like Ennis might be sponsored by Carhartt, which might be the only reason to live there. I mean, if you like staying healthy. But yeah, I bet if they did what is that called, a survey, that they would say that they would find out that whole town is poisoned by mercury. Symptoms of being poisoned by mercury is schizophrenia like symptoms. You see things, people tell you to do things. That's the other thing. Schizophrenia tells you to do things. I don't think that the afterlife tells you to do things. They just show you stuff. They don't point in your fucking face like that. Man, I want to beat them. Oh, and this is the part that I can't stop thinking about. So at the end of the episode, before I go away, the end of the episode was when they find Otis inside the dredge, and his ass is in there running around with Clark's jacket, which suggests to me that Clark is naked somewhere, butt-ass naked like he always is, put some clothes on, and I am positive that he was staying there, or somebody was staying back at the Salal lab, because in the first episode, when the delivery guy comes, there was a scurry. I took a screenshot of it. Maybe I'll post it up here. And that is spooky to me. I'm fucking sick of these TV shows showing supernatural things and then not following up with it, such as P-Valley. P-Valley on Starz is one of my favorite television shows, and they brought a supernatural element and they never closed it. It's very similar to how it's being done in this series, because there was somebody scurrying across when Homeboy went back to the lab. And then in P-Valley, they were looking at a security camera, like the character was looking at security cameras of the strip club. And they were, how there's like a bunch of them, and they were like looking at all of them, and their eyes were on this one. And over there was like somebody who walks by. It was intentional to capture that, so why not bring it up again? That season ended, no discussion of the figure that was there. Maybe it was an accident. I don't think so. So there's somebody scurrying. Oh, and I do remember the delivery guy making a comment about it to Danvers, and he was like, oh, never mind. I didn't see nobody. That place is scary. And did they even go that deep into the place? There's a lot of holes here. And what's going to happen? And the character of Pryor going over to his wife and be like, oh, something about the baby. Like that whole storyline, I wish they didn't do it. I know why they did it in a way to show this young couple and demonstrate a foreboding about what might happen to Pryor if he becomes the next, detective in town and when Danvers leaves. So I don't know. I see a young man who is trying to negotiate his life, his dream, what he wants to do with what his family would like his life to look like, and how are they going to do that together instead of separately. Because what ends up happening in young couples or any couples is that rather than figure out what works for them based on what their needs are, they try to adhere to a paradigm they try to adhere to a paradigm, the mainstream homogenous paradigm of a mother, a father, a kid. They wash their kid together. They do it at this time. You have to create a life that you can live that is alignment with your values. Is your values to give your kid a bath every night? That's great and wonderful if it is, but there are lots of ways that you can stay connected to your child in ways that are more aligned with your own beliefs. So that was hard for me to watch as a divorced person and a person who knows like a lot. I don't know. I feel like I know a lot about relationships now. It's sad to see a young couple that could really use some guidance on what's important in the long run and don't sweat the small stuff, which is a very privileged position to say, don't sweat the small stuff. But it is important to remember that things don't last forever. Hard times don't last forever. And if there's a baseline of love and companionship and emotional intelligence and maturity that you can weather the hard times. I mean, look, it's only been 5 or 6 days and his wife is dusted and disgusted, as E40 would say, because man, she ain't having it. Because number one, the thing that's she's not having her sexual needs met. Like, look, she wanted to fuck that dude when her kid was 6 feet away from them. Hard. I don't know. Was she going to fuck? Maybe she was just going to jack him off. I'm not sure. But she wanted to do something enough that she was about to bite him, and she did, which I thought was interesting. But anyways, she's been wanting to have sex. She's been wanting to spend time with him. It is Christmas, which is a reasonable expectation, but not for their family because we have possibly 8 people dead, and it just happens to be at Christmas. Death don't know no holidays. Anyways, I think I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm getting tired and can't wait to drop a new one next week. Hope you guys are listening to the pod and having a great time out there. Hopefully my mic kept up, and cheers. Happy Lunar New Year, Year of the Dragon, the Wood Dragon, and may you have an auspicious new year. And is there something on my face, or is that... Anyways, take care. I'm Dewa. This is the Dank Moms podcast. Follow me, subscribe, download, do what you need to do. And then also, follow me on Instagram at DEWADORJE, because I am a comedian. I'm a stand-up comedian. I have a show in Seattle, and I do shows all over. So check me out. Check my calendar. See you soon. Let me know if you are listening and you like it, or watching and you like it. Take care. Dank Moms. Stay high and nasty.